Yeah, just when you thought you had the granny square motif all figured out, this one is gonna blow you away. All right, crochet friends, you are not ready for what I have in store for you today. So many of you saw our block stitch tutorial last week. Well, this week we are using the exact same stitch and we are creating a granny square with it. So if I kind of hold it up, you can see where the outline of every odd numbered round is the granny shell. And then we've got this fabulous little contrast bespeckled effect. Isn't that cool? And I guarantee you it is just as easy as the block stitch was. You're basically using the same stitch, but you're working it in the round. So you're going in a circular fashion. And in this example, I did indeed change colors. I know in last week's tutorial, I basically just used one color, and you absolutely can do this in one color, but I really wanted to show what the contrast would look like when you change colors every second round. Is that not fantastic? So many cool things that you can make and create with this granny square. Like anything, you can create afghans, scarves, cardigans, all kinds of things. Is that not so gorgeous? So I'm not going to go on and on about this. We're just going to get started. So let's stitch up our block stitch granny square. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using the Lion Brands 24/7 cotton yarn. It's a mercerized cotton, and I just love working with it. And I'm so excited that Michaels now carries this on a regular basis. I'm trying to remember the first time I saw this yarn. I actually used it in my Granny Square placemats tutorial, and it was done in the color magenta. And I think I found it at like Lens Mills or something like that. And at that point in time, you hadn't seen it at some place like a Michaels or something like that. So now they carry this regularly, and I'm very excited to use it. And this is not sponsored, unfortunately for me. I'd love it if they would sponsor me, but I just simply like this yarn. It is considered a medium weight number 4 yarn. I would definitely say it's closer to a lightweight number 3. It's like chain spun. It's just beautiful, 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 especially if you're working on some decor or household projects. This is the yarn for you. So they come in 100 gram skeins, in case you're wondering, and the recommended hook size that they recommend is a 4mm hook. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a 4.5mm hook, which is also known as a G or a size 7. And I just think it'll just help you to see the stitches a little bit clearer. So I'm using 2 colors. I've got this blue and the white here. And again, in case you're wondering, the color is actually called Sky. And then this is just a typical white, okay? And then as always, just make sure that you have a handy pair of scissors and a yarn needle to weave in any ends at the end. So let's get started on this square. Okay, so I am going to begin with this blue color here. And I like to do my square motifs with a cinch circle. You can certainly do this with a chain 4, chain 5 method if you prefer. So I am going to use the cinch circle here. So I'm just going to make a loop around my 2 fingers here. And then I'm going to just hold where it crisscrosses. And then I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop. Now it's going to be a little wonky here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1. And this is always the most awkward part here. And if you are still either unfamiliar or a little bit nervous about using cinch circles, I've recently, about a month or 2 ago, made a new video all about how to create your cinch circle, just to make it a little bit clearer for you. And I go step by step, nice and easy. And I think it's a game changer for a lot of your projects that are done in the round. I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'll leave a link for that down below. So I've made my cinch circle here. If you're using the chain 4 ring, that's okay too. So we're going to begin like a typical granny square. So I'm going to chain an additional 3. So I have 1, 2, and 3. And actually, sorry, I'm going to chain an additional 4. So in total, I have 5 chains. This is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 2. Okay. What I'm going to do next is we are going to place 3 double crochets inside this ring. So we're going to create a shell stitch here. So we've got 1 double crochet. Again, this first round's a little wonky, just hang in there. And then we've got our second double crochet. And then we're going to place a third double crochet. Okay, so you have something that looks like that. So you've got that chain 5, it's creating a little loop there, and then you've got 3 double crochets. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and we are going to place another shell stitch into this ring. So we're going to yarn over, and we have 1 double crochet. Then we yarn over, go back into that ring, and we have a second double crochet. And then we go 1 more time, and this is our third double crochet. So you can see it's created a nice little corner there. So what we've done at the beginning here with that chain 5, this is a partial corner. And I like to do it this way, especially if you are using the same color, for example. And that way it hides that seam. And I'll show you what I mean once we get around. So now you're just going to continue. Again, you're going to chain 2. And we're going to create another corner by placing a shell stitch again into my ring. So I have 1, and then I have 2 double crochets, and then I have 3. Okay, so there's another corner formed. Okay, so now I need to create my 4th corner because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I chain 2 again. Now this time, remember that 3 of these chains counts as a double crochet. So I only need to place 2 more double crochets in order to create that shell stitch. So remember at the beginning I said, you'll see why I did chain 5 at the beginning. So there's 1. There's 2. Again, I'm working over that tail. And now I can actually cinch this center shut because I have 4 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can cinch it shut so it's nice and tight and you can pull on it. And so 3 of these chains is going to get joined up here. And at the top of that 3rd chain, I'm going to slip stitch to join. Just like that. Look at that. So it's like your typical granny square round number 1. And you see by slip stitching into the top of the chain 3, I mean, it's still the first round, so you can't really go by that, but it helps to just hide where our seam is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into round number 2, and I am going to change colors. So I'm just going to put this down, and I'm going to introduce the white yarn here. Okay, now, what a lot of people will do just to make it simpler is they will snip their yarn with every color change for this particular stitch. And those of you that saw the block stitch tutorial from last week in a flat project, you know that I discussed that. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to carry my yarn. So I like to try and avoid random tails as much as I can. But if you find this a little bit too cumbersome, please just feel free to snip your yarn at the end of every round and add the new color in. You'll just have a lot of ends to weave in at the end. So what I'm going to do here is I slip stitch to join into the top of the 3rd chain. Now what I'm going to do is as I bring my white color in here, I'm actually going to go over into this chain space and I'm going to bring up the white. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that up and through here. So that way I will start in the corner, and then I'm just going to throw that tail over and chain 1. And then I just leave my non-working yarn just behind there, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to start in the corner here, and this is round 2 of the repeat. So what we're doing here is exactly what we did in the block stitch in a flat project. So the difference is we're working in the round. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here with a single crochet, and I'm just going to try and work over that first little tail here. And then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to go back into that corner space and single crochet. Just like that. So all of your corners for round number 2 and all of your even numbered rounds are going to have a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So you have a little corner space there. And now, just like we did in the regular block stitch that we did in a flat project, we are going to chain 2 and then go over to the next space, which happens to be the corner here, and single crochet. Now, some people like to chain 3, and if you are a tight crocheter, I actually strongly recommend you do that because you don't want your work to bunch. So I would just eyeball it, see how it looks. I feel okay with a chain 2, which is what we did last week in the flat project. I just do chain 2s. So you chain 2, you go into the next space. Now the next space happens to be a corner. And every time you're in a corner, you will still chain 2 and then go back into that same corner and single crochet. Okay, then chain 2. So it's pretty simple. Chain 2, you go to the next space, single crochet. Again, it's a corner, so we're going to chain 2 and place a single crochet back into that same space. Then we chain 2 again, and we go to the next space, which is a corner. So we single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Look at that. And now we're going to chain 2, and we are going to slip stitch into the top of that first single crochet. And round number 2 is complete. So it doesn't look like much of anything just yet, other than we've changed colors. But as we work subsequent rounds, you're going to see how it's really going to take shape. So every even numbered round from now on is always going to be this typical chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. And then every odd numbered round is going to be where you place your shell stitches. So we're going to go on to round number 3, and I'm going to pick up my blue yarn again. And if you were doing this all one color, then you wouldn't have to worry about this. And actually, if you do this all one color, it also looks really, really beautiful. So I'm going to go into this corner space now, and I am going to insert my hook. I'm going to drop my white yarn, and now I'm going to pick up my blue again. And if you find these little short tails bothersome, you can stop here and weave those in before you proceed. So I'm going to use the blue yarn. I'm going to pull that through, and now I can work out of my corner. So I always love starting a new round in the corner. So I'm going to begin by chaining 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Remember that the chain 5 always counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. So then I'm going to go back into the corner space, and I'm going to place a shell stitch, which is 3 double crochets. So just like I did in round number 1, I'm beginning with a partial corner. So I've got 3 double crochets here, just like that. And then 3 of these count as a double crochet. So this is part of a corner that we're going to finish when we come back around the bend here. So now all you're going to do is you are going to work a shell stitch into every chain space. That's why this is so nice and easy, this stitch, but it's just so beautiful, the effect it creates, especially when you're changing colors. So you see the chains themselves are going to get hidden, and the single crochets are what are going to be left showing. See that? So it's just the white that's going to be left. So now I come across another corner space. So just like a typical granny square, when you come to the corner and it's an odd numbered row where you're working with double crochets, you're going to place a shell. So we have 3 double crochets, and it could get a little crowded in here. That's why some people might like to do 3 chains for your corner. So there's a shell. Then I'm going to chain 2 and place another shell right back into that same corner. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So now you can see it's a full corner. There we go. Okay, so you've got, see how the shell stitch is hiding the chain, but then it leaves the single crochets just peeking out there. And then that's what you're going to do. You're going to continue on finding your next chain space, which is right here. And you will place a shell stitch. 3 double crochets. Okay, and now I've got my next corner space. So you're going to do exactly what you did here. Shell, chain 2, shell. Okay, then in this space, just 1 shell. In the corner, shell, chain 2, shell. And then you've got 1 final chain space here, just a regular shell. So go ahead and finish that. I'm going to meet up with you when we want to just finish off round number 3. Okay, so just finished my last full shell. Now I'm back at that first corner. Okay, so we know that we need 3 double crochets to create a shell, and 3 of these chains counts as 1. So we need to place 2 more double crochets into this corner space right beside that chain there. So there's 2. And then I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the 3rd chain, which is right there. And round number 3 is complete. And now you can see how cool that contrast is when you use a different color. Isn't that neat? Okay, so we know that all the odd numbered rounds are the shell stitch rounds. All the even numbered rounds are the single crochets and chains. So I'm going to go on to round number 4 with you, just to kind of help you continue on. And so if you're changing colors like me, you will then slip stitch over into the corner, but you're going to pick up the new color. So I'm going to drop the blue right now, and then I'm going to pick up the white. So on the back, you will see it getting picked up. So now some people might not like that, and therefore they may choose to snip your yarn and weave in your tails. Now, because this actually has a front and a back, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to pick that up, and I am going to just pull that through and slip stitch in the corner there. And then I'm just going to pull that blue a little bit tighter. So you can see in the back that the white will get brought up. Now, in a case like this, I might use this as a motif that I perhaps am going to sew to something else, or I might put a lining here. So I'm not that particular about this line showing. Now, if you were to make something like a blanket, perhaps you would probably want to hide that. So I would then snip your yarn after every round. Now, if you happen to be doing yours a solid color, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I just wanted to address that because I know some of you might mention that that's kind of a little bit off-putting to some of you. But it doesn't bother me. So I'm now going to continue with my white. I'll chain 1 here, and then I'm going to single crochet, chain 2. Remember, we're creating our corner in our even numbered rounds. We go back in here and single crochet. Okay, now I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. And now what I'm going to do is, my project is getting a little larger, so I'm going to single crochet in between each shell stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to go right in that space between, and I'm going to single crochet. Chain 1 and 2, find the next space between the shells, and single crochet. See, so now you're creating extra chain spaces. So again, chain 2, 1 and 2. Now here's my corner, so I'm going to single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. All right, so then as usual, I chain 2, and I find the space in between the shells, and that is how I continue working round number 4. So see, now that we're getting a more substantial piece, you can really see where the shells are being separated. So cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish round number 4, and then I'll meet up with you to start round number 5. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of round number 4. And again, I'm just going to find the top of that very first single crochet. I'm going to slip stitch to join. And round number 4 is complete. And then I'm just going to get you started on round number 5, just to kind of remind you. You're going into the corner here, and you're going to slip stitch with the new color. So I'm going to drop the white, and I'm going to pull up the blue. And that allows me to begin in the corner. And this is a shell stitch round. So I'm going to chain 5 to begin in the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, it counts as a double crochet, chain 2. And then into this corner, I'm going to place a shell stitch. So 3 double crochets. And as you continue to work this up for as many rounds as you like, you're really going to see how the effect of having a contrast color really creates a really pretty effect. And then you just follow the general block stitch rule as usual. So we've got 1, 2, 3 chain spaces now. So into every chain space, you will work a shell stitch. Now, some people in their granny motifs, they like to chain 1 between all of their shells. And as always, if you're a tight crocheter, that's exactly what I recommend. I generally do not. I find that I'm kind of a medium. I have a medium type gauge, and I generally don't feel like I need to chain 1. And I like how it sits there. So there you go. And that's what you're going to do all the way around in shell stitch into every chain space. So now we've got 1, 2, 3 spaces, as I said. And then in the corner, it's shell, chain 2, shell, and then you're going to continue on the way. So I hope this is giving you the confidence to get you going on how to create a granny square using your block stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually work up several more rounds just so you can really see the full effect of the block stitch in the granny motif. And I think I'm actually really excited. I think you are going to find this super cool. And again, very easy, just double crochets and single crochets. So for you beginners out there, this is going to be a super fun one for you guys to work on. And of course, for those of you that are more experienced, hopefully this gave you something new that you can add to your crochet stitch repertoire. All right, so I have completed 7 rounds, and now you can really see, look at how cool that looks. Looks like your granny square is bespeckled with this white color here. Isn't that cool? And this is just the block stitch, but because we changed colors, it creates that really, really cool effect. So if you look closely, you can see where the shell stitch rounds are separated with those chain loops, but the shells cover up the chains. Look at how pretty this is. This would be absolutely gorgeous if you were to crochet an elegant Afghan or something like that. Just absolutely beautiful. Look at the texture. Look at the contrast. I just love it. Now I will turn the back so you can see. In my case, I did carry the yarn. So like I said, if maybe you would do something like A pillow cover would be nice in this too, actually very gorgeous. And so something like carrying your yarn would not be a big deal because this would be on the inside of the pillow. But like I said, if you were going to do this for like a blanket or something like that, then I would recommend you snipping your yarn between all of the color changes. But all in all, that is the block stitch granny square. Did you find it easier than you thought it was going to be? I know it looks super intricate and complicated, but like I said with the block stitch, if you are really comfortable with your basic stitches like double crochets and single crochets, you're good to go. So let me know what you think of this granny motif and how you found it. If you have any detailed questions, as always, you can leave it for me in the comment box down below. And as well, share with us what you are going to make with your block stitch granny. I know that a lot of us are always looking for inspirations, so please do share it with us down below. Now, I know some of you like to email me directly with any further questions, so feel free. You can always reach me at info@crochetcrafty.com. And as always, I invite you to come visit me on the website at crochetcrafty.com. There's a lot of great crochet tools there for you, along with some fabulous free written patterns and a link to my Etsy shop. And as always, come say hi to me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at The Stitch Sessions. So I hope you really enjoyed today's tutorial. I look forward to seeing what you're going to create with this. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Happy crocheting. As always, make sure to take good care of yourselves. And I will see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.